Okay, good morning and welcome to the first day of my dialogue organized by the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and ISPI. My name is Alessia Melcangi and I'm Associate Professor at the Sapienza University of Rome and Resident Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council of Washington and Senior Associate Research Fellow at ISPI. It's a pleasure for me to host a parterre of extraordinary guests that will help us to explore a really relevant topic, redefining maritime agendas. I would like to give space to the contribution of our guests, so I will limit myself to a very brief introduction and give the floor to the speakers. Over the past years, maritime issues in the Mediterranean have returned to the forefront of the international attention. The highlighted complexity faced by the region, marked by the ongoing conflict, challenges the security of maritime routes with direct repercussion on trade and freedom of navigation. In particular, in the Red Sea, yet maritime agenda is not only shaken by the current crisis. The region's maritime sector is also emerging as a hub for innovation and growth. Its seabed is becoming a new strategic frontier due to the presence of critical resources and a vital data superhighway for the digital economy. At the same time, the decarbonization of logistics and ports, together with the development of the blue economy, are offering new levers for sustainability in the region. So this session explores how Mediterranean actors can work to recalibrate their maritime agendas to address this dual reality of emerging threats, but also new and important and relevant opportunities. How can maritime security in the Mediterranean be reinforced amid regional conflict and disruption in the Red Sea? And in light of this threat, what strategies can be adopted to build more resilient and diversified trade routes? And in what way can technological innovation from seabed connectivity to blue economy be supported to enhance sustainability? So we try to afford this topic from different perspectives, try to offer analytical answer to envisage, of course, proactive policies. Of course, to this I need the help of our panelists, so I would like to give my warmest welcome to Admiral Giuseppe Cavodragone, Chairman of the NATO Military Committee, Dr. Abdulaziz Saker, Founder, Chairman of the Gulf Research Center, and Director Osgush, it's okay, sorry for the surname, Ankara Office Director, German Marshall Fund. Thank you very much. We will have 2 rounds of questions, so due to time constraint, and I apologize for that, I am forced to limit your answer to 7 minutes, more or less 6-7 minutes. Okay. The first round is a question for Admiral Cavodragone. Thank you for making the effort of being with us in Naples today. What is the linkage between Brussels and the city?
Okay. If I may, I would say from NATO to Naples.
NATO to Naples.
Yeah. Even if I was not, in my youth I was a marginal student, but I can recall that from my studies that Naples has been one of the first cities with strong personality in revolution, in the search of freedom, and that time when everything happens was at the end of the 18th century. A common sense was that freedom is not an idea, freedom is a sentiment. Freedom is a sentiment, it's something that you can enforce with, not with words, but with action. Okay, if we go through this, I think that NATO is pretty much aligned with this state of mind. We have been there since 1946, so 76 years roughly, and in 76 years we have work, enforce freedom in all over the alliance, and no 1 inch of the alliance has been lost, so it means it is working, but just because freedom is there at the core business of our alliance, even if, we are subject to threat, of course, which is multi-directional. We see what's going on down in East now, between Ukraine and Russia, is having effect all the way through from the Red Sea up to the Atlantic. So it's the threat is really multi-oriented. But again, freedom is something that we see. It's you have to fight for. If you are lucky and you have it, you have to practice it and defend it. If you don't have it, like the brave people in Ukraine, you have to fight for it, sometimes to die for it, and you have to pay a price that every one of us is willing to pay for, of course, for us and for the generation to come. So to go back to your question, if I have to look for a linkage, a common point, then freedom. Freedom is something that Naples, the town, has been fighting for back in old times, and it is something that we are strongly convinced that must be defended with all our strength up there in Brussels.
Thank you very much. Also, Naples is connected with sea, of course, with port, so we are in the maritime agenda. Remain here. So, Dr. Sager, in recent months, the situation in the Red Sea has become a growing source of concern with significant repercussion for maritime security and regional stability. So, given the current development, in what way is the current crisis in the Red Sea affecting the Gulf region's security architecture and its approach to ensuring the resilience of maritime trade routes?
First, I'm so happy to be in Naples. Thank you, SB, for all the great effort, and for the people in SB that putting all this wonderful effort to bring everybody together. Well, Red Sea used to be a very quiet corridor. There was no real tension in the old days until we saw Iran supporting a violent non-state actors militia called the Houthi in Yemen, supplying them with weapons, long-range missiles, fast boats, all the means that they can disturb the free movement of shipment. So as a result of that, more than 500 ships has been attacked. As a result of the Horn of, or what we call Bab al-Mandab security changes, vessels, they had to go through the Cape, and that 6,500 kilometers longer journey. Price of shipping went up and high. A country like Egypt have lost 8 billion a year on the revenue that was supposed to be through the Suez Canal. Through the Bab al-Mandab, it used to be about 35% of the container movement and 20% of the global trade. And more dangerous or more important is the cable, the connectivity, that all the way from Shanghai to Rotterdam. That's becoming a serious issue now, particularly when we have seen a certain attack happen to that cable, how that have affected the whole thing. So traditionally, we used to have our capability in the Gulf region, supported by international presence like the US, whether in the Fifth Fleet or in the Udeid as an air base there, to counter any regional threat that we have. Today, honestly, there's a big question mark, and I say it as a researcher myself. There's a question mark is, what is the new security architecture in the region? And one of the great ideas, and I'm very happy to see the Admiral here, that I can drop or put the idea forward. I think we need to look at NATO plus, and the NATO plus means as a GCC country, the Gulf country, collaborating with the NATO, not under the ICI traditional Istanbul Cooperation Initiative, which is a cooperation initiative, but not a serious guarantor that can be provided. But this NATO plus will bring a sort of an assurance to the region. Then we're talking block to block, the 6 countries with the 28 members at the NATO. And I think that can at least send signals if there is any threat, because traditionally we used to have Iran on the threat assessment being #1, and also with all their long-range missiles, with their nuclear capability and so. Now situation have changed. Israel is in the upper agenda after what they did brutally and in Qatar. I think that have changed the concept now, and what do we need to think about regional security architecture, who will be playing, who are the international forces that we can trust. And by the way, we're not saying the Chinese or the Russian are the replacement, no. We have a good China trade relation with China, but they're not a replacement for our regional security. Neither the Russian, after the Ukrainian and what we have seen there, there will be a replacement. I think we need to find a means and a way where we can first, get the security architect. Don't forget, this part of the world is one of the largest suppliers of energy worldwide. So if you put it all together, you will see it all the way from the Gulf to Bab el-Mandab to Suez, accessing the Mediterranean, that has a full linkage, to that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sager. Thank you very much for addressing this relevant topic. Now I would like to ask to Özgür. We move to the Eastern Mediterranean, which became a complex theater for where energy, security, and diplomacy intersect. And despite growing interdependence, coordinating among coastal states remain really complex, fragmented, particularly on maritime security and resource governance. So the question is, with this dynamic in mind, I would be very interested to hear your perspective on what concrete step could regional actors take to move from ad hoc coordination to a more structured framework to maritime security cooperation in the Eastern Mediterranean.
Thank you very much. So my name is Özgür Ünlü Hisarcıklı, but don't feel bad for not being able to pronounce it. My mom still has not learned it,
Please.
and I can barely pronounce my own name. So I'm really used to this. So you have characterized the Eastern Mediterranean as a strategic frontier, which is the case. But beyond being a strategic frontier, nowadays the Eastern Mediterranean is at the crossroads of digital connectivity, energy connectivity, trade connectivity, and as a matter of fact, human connectivity, as it's also a migration route as well. And as such, actually, it's a sea of opportunity. It's also an area in which actually public and private sectors need to cooperate in order to take advantage of the opportunities. But it's also a very challenging region as well. We are actually talking about a region in which some of the countries in the region have overlapping EEZ claims. Some of them don't have diplomatic relations. Others don't recognize each other. And some of the countries are actually formally at war. Now, of course, cooperation is very important for taking advantage of the opportunities and also overcoming the challenges. And also, we should not forget, maybe another important aspect is, this area is where the East meets the West and the North meets the South. So if we cannot actually manage to cooperate here, if the North and South cannot cooperate in this region, how will they cooperate globally? So I believe cooperation and competition, cooperation and coordination is very important. But I'm a little bit skeptical about how structured this coordination and cooperation can be, given the situation I just described, countries being at war, countries not recognizing each other. So I think that we'll need to act in a multi-tier way. There will be a group of countries, like-minded countries, who can actually cooperate in a more structured way, such as the East Med Gas Forum, let's say. But yet others should be also engaged in more pragmatic cooperation on issues that are of concern, not only to all countries in the region, in the Eastern Mediterranean region, but also external actors as well. So cooperation will need to be pragmatic. It will need to, unfortunately, remain ad hoc. And speaking of literal countries and external actors, we also must be very careful about balancing the interests of these. And we also need to understand that external actors that have an influence in the region have also become more diverse nowadays, and countries in the region also want to diversify their relationships in order to take advantage of this situation. So the interests of littoral states will need to be balanced with the interests of external actors who can actually play a strong positive role in the region.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your insight, and also because the Eastern Mediterranean represents now a really hot spot of a possibility, an opportunity, but also maybe a hotspot of crisis. So it's very important to focus our attention and try to find a possible architecture, in order to create this collaboration and cooperation, especially in this period, especially in this turning point it is now. So thank you very much. I would like to turn and go back to Admiral Cavo Dragone to address a particular topic. NATO has been portrayed as too much leaning on East and too little on the South. It's something that we repeat more than one time. What is your opinion about this?
Well, I can understand. I can understand because really we are now pretty much, I don't want to say focused, but paying attention and supporting Ukraine in this fight with Russia and being side by side with them up to the day in which we will be able to have them sit at the table from a strong position to discuss for a long-lasting just peace. But that in reality is not true because, as I told you in my first answer, I mean, the threat is coming from everywhere, and NATO is really 360 degrees oriented in facing these kind of challenges and threats. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was in Brussels speaking about Ukraine. Today I'm here speaking about Mediterranean, and tomorrow, hopefully with flights, if the flights works, I will go in Iceland to speak about Arctic Circle. But NATO is really 360 degrees oriented. As far as our southern neighborhood, we really built a pretty strong and articulated framework net with a great focusing and attention to our southern neighborhood. Just to name some activities. I mean, of course, here in Naples at the Joint Force Command, we set up the Strategic Direction South Hub to gather, I mean, intelligence capabilities, all the activities and tasks that are southern related, just to get more in touch, to get closer to our southern neighborhood problems or habits, help our like-minded partners in fighting terrorism, in standardization, in all this kind of stuff. And this is something that really is very important and well considered in our community. Then after that, just consider that we strengthen our partnership with the Istanbul Cooperation Initiative and the Mediterranean Dialogue. We build together the defense of our friends. We fight together trafficking and terrorism. And of course, we are side by side reaching, and we are at a good level of interoperability and standardization. Again, at sea, Operation Sea Guardian, it's giving us maritime situation awareness deep, and again, we are facing problems like terrorism and trafficking with the other navies, standardizing our behavior, our way of navigating, and do operation at sea. And then, if you just consider these three events, these three activities, I mean, we set up an important element in our organization, which is the special representative for the southern neighborhood, with a strong, well-defined southern action plan, which is a direct obeying direct order of the Secretary General, and who is really be making sure that in all NATO activities, the southern neighborhood is fully considered, it's fully part of the solution of the problems, on the setting up the plans, and on and on and on. And we don't have to forget Kosovo, even if it is a little bit farther away, but that's something, that's an operation in Kosovo, a mission in Kosovo that we have been conducting for the last 20 years, with just guaranteeing peace and stability there. And this means that we consider our southern neighborhood from Balkans up down on the Mediterranean up to Gibraltar in an imaginary arc of stability that we want to guarantee as best as we can. So basically this means that, I mean, NATO is, I would say, good, well, southern oriented, and we are determined to keep this attitude strong and up to speed, and get closer and closer with our partner, because, I mean, the stability of the area, the peace and the cooperation is our first interest, because, I mean, we have always been considering the Mediterranean as the bridge of, I mean, religion, civilization, and cultures, and we want to keep it that way. Free, I mean, and all the nations being able to keep on exchanges this kind of stuff, and that's something that it is really strongly put in our agenda.
Thank you very much. As Dr. Sager said, everything is connected. So the effect of one crisis, one tension, or one problem in a particular area, of course, have a spillover also in the others. And Dr. Sager, in recent months, the situation in the Red Sea, for example, no, sorry, the other question. Saudi Arabia is increasingly investing in a strategic connectivity project, including subsea cables and energy pipelines, which have implications for regional integration and technological advancement. So the question is, how do you see this project contributing to its vision for regional integration and technological advancement?
Let me start first by saying Saudi Arabia have developed the logistical hub on the Red Sea. Not only it used to be traditionally one big port, which is in Jeddah, and now we have Yanbu, Arabic, Jazan, Dhiba, Neom. So we have expanded on all the logistical facility at the Red Sea. At the same time, we have created the land bridge which connect east to the west as a land bridge, and also a railway for the cargo. At the same time, we have created the countries of the Red Seas, the association or the collaboration of the countries of the Red Seas. And that's also focusing on how to deal with all the security threat, from piracies to terrorist operation, to human trafficking, to drug trafficking, to smuggling, to illicit trade, all of these things. And we are progressing in that one. On the digitization, Saudi Arabia today is expanding in two areas. In the whole AI, which include data center, and also they're investing in the cabling. I think close to $23 billion Saudi Arabia have invested on the cable, on the sea cable to connect. So it means today the maritime security is no longer a traditional maritime security. It's going beyond that. When we saw the effect and the impact of the slow internet connectivity, and how that affect and impact on all the financial transaction, on all the connectivity of the people, and so we saw that this has severe impact. So yes, we are building data center. We are supplying it with the necessary power. Saudi is investing, big investment on the cables and on the digitization, and we believe Saudi Arabia could be the hub connecting the east with the west, because the cable is going through the Red Sea, and the country can provide necessary security for that.
Really important. Saudi Arabia, so look at the vision and look to be an hub for this, of course.
Yes.
A bridge, a point of connection, really important. And a question for Özgür. As new maritime corridors emerge, such as the Israel-Greece-Cyprus route, Turkey's strategic positioning remains central to the balance of power. and connectivity in the Eastern Mediterranean, so we go back to the Eastern Mediterranean. Ankara appears both challenged and potentially empowered by these evolving dynamics. So considering this infrastructure initiative in the region, how do you see Turkey redefining its maritime strategy? And might Ankara propose credible alternative routes or framework in order to strengthen cooperation?
Well, I mean, Turkey's situation in this connectivity map is really interesting. I mean, from one perspective also, like I saw visually several maps yesterday, and one common attribute in these maps is that they actually all avoid Turkey. Like, if you look at all the connectivity maps of the region, Turkey appears as a black hole. It's not part of any of them, and they're of course political, not geographic or commercial reasons. There are political reasons why Turkey is not included in those. Initially, Turkey's response to this has been coercive diplomacy in order to protect its perceived interests. But Turkey's position itself has lately been changing. If I could take a couple of minutes to explain how Turkey's position, also its diplomatic position, has changed. Starting with the then called Arab Spring in the mid-2010s, Turkey found itself largely isolated in the Eastern Mediterranean. And then, because of its rapprochement with Russia, Turkey-US relationship deteriorated. And then there was a trauma in Turkey in 2016 in the form of a failed coup attempt. And this was a trauma not only for the government, but also for the Turkish society at large. Turkey took a very defensive position, and Turkey's response to the failed coup attempt also deteriorated its relations with the EU due to the democratic backsliding. And then its relationship with Israel, although restored at that time, was still very tense for the situation in Gaza. Then Turkey has overlapping EEZ claims with Greece, and of course there is the Cyprus problem. So basically, Turkey had political problems with all the countries in the region, which led to its isolation and which led to its coercive diplomacy in order to protect its perceived interests in the region. But now, actually, Turkey, that isolation has largely gone away. So Turkey now has constructive relations with most countries in the region, and hence Turkey's own strategy, maritime strategy, is also shifting. So Turkey is shifting its approach from being a claimant to a country that's a connector of different connectivity networks and a redundancy provider if necessary. So yes, Turkey is excluded from the IMEC. It's not one of the signatories, but Turkish companies could of course benefit, and Turkey is also developing its ports in case its capacity is required by the IMEC. But moreover, also Turkey is in the process of developing the middle corridor that connects Europe to Central Asia, which has become a very strategic issue for the European Union, given the critical raw materials that are present in Central Asia. So Turkey is actually working on this route that bypasses both Russia and Iran, and Turkey, together with Iraq, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, is actually working on the Iraqi Development Road project, which could actually potentially connect IMEC to the middle corridor. So although Turkey is not actually on the map on any of the current connectivity projects, I believe it will remain a critical actor in connecting those connectivity projects to each other.
Thank you very much. Now the role of Turkey is really important. It plays an important, relevant role also in this particular turning point, in this particular moment, and also if we look at the Gaza crisis and the last peace program that was explained by Trump in Sharm el-Sheikh last week, exactly. We arrived at the end of this panel, but as we approach the final minutes of our discussion, we have some minutes. So I would like to give the floor to Admiral Cavodragone for a closing message for us.
Yeah. I was just thinking that even if I'm a sailor, I haven't speak a lot about Mediterranean maritime. Apologize for that. I know I still have to keep my rule as in NATO. But if I can really honestly tell what could be the takeaway, but not for you, but for everybody. I would say for everybody. I mean, in this experience in this time. I mean, we cannot take freedom for granted. I mean, we have been lucky. We were born in a peace environment, basically all of us. But whenever this is taken away from you, that's become the tragedy. So we need to treasure. We need to not to give freedom and democracy and all the goods we have for granted. I mean, I'm just speaking about the junior generation. With a survey, we saw that the 70% of the junior generation in Europe take freedom for granted. And of course, on the other side, 0% of the soldiers in the trench and in the foxhole in Donbass in Ukraine take it 0% freedom for granted. So this is something that we need to treasure. And to defend it, we need to practice. We need to practice it every single day with exercises, with plans, with friendship, with partnership, and on and on and on. Of course, it is a difficult issue, and it's something that honestly it couldn't be bear only on military shoulders. It is, a whole of society phenomenon. I was in Sweden a couple of months ago, and they published a very nice pamphlet, a yellow one. Was in case of war. It was for every single habitant, every single person in Sweden, from children to older person. What to do in case of? I mean, just how to handle, food, how to handle water, how to handle your house, how to go to the bunker and shield yourself. And I was thinking that in many of the countries, the European countries, if you do this, you're probably going to be burned alive, because it's something that it is not in our mind. But again, freedom, liberty, and it's something that it has been achieved and defended by the total society. It is expensive, yes. This is why I don't call it defense expenses, but defense investment. It's like the health care. Every single time, at the time of the year, you have to go over there and pay your due, the yearly due. It's kind of, should I do right, should I do wrong, or should I save it for something else? Then, all of a sudden, if something wrong happened, particularly bad disease, you are more than happy to have done this kind of insurance, this kind of expense. So I call not defense expenses, but defense insurance, which is, because it is. And we see that it is. War is much more expensive than war, and recovery from war. It is much more expensive than keep the peace and keep your freedom, your liberty. So I would say to everybody that we have to make this kind of reorientation of our mindset, watching what's happening, and that definitely we are lucky, and we need to defend our this kind of, let's say, luxury. That's basically my message.
Thank you very much. So let me thanks again my extraordinary guests. So thank you very much, Admiral Cavo Dragona. Thank you very much, Dr. Abulaziz Sager. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Director Ausbush. Thank you very much for being with us. And of course, thank you for participating to this panel. And see you in the afternoon with the second part of Med Dialogue. Thank you so much.